get all nostalgia on your ass for this edition of WrestleBound. Now, I've been watching wrestling on TV since I was 8 years old. I'm 24 now and continue to enjoy it to some degree. But I sure as hell miss the days of watching the feud between Edge and The Undertaker, for example. That was so much fun to me. And I'm sure other fans miss the Attitude Era, or when Hulkamania was running wild, or when the territories thrived. At least that's what I assume Acclaim thought when they came up with the idea for the Legends of Wrestling game. If you wanted to, you could watch the old farts on WCW. On paper, the idea for this game wasn't all too bad. Getting a bunch of wrestling's iconic stars and figureheads of days gone by all into one disc with updated graphics sounds like a win. We bought the games when they were in their prime, so why wouldn't we buy into them now? Not like there was any better wrestling games around at the time. Anyway, Legends of Wrestling was the culmination of those ideas, and it could only be brought to us by the one and only Acclaim. They've had experience in the wrestling genre going all the way back to the WWF's first NES game, but their recent efforts of burying the name of ECW deeper into the ground doesn't necessarily get me excited to play whatever this could be. Regardless, it was released for the PS2 first in North America just before Christmas of 2001, and Europe would get it the day after Valentine's Day 2002. The GameCube and Xbox versions would come out later in the year, several days apart in both regions. Support goes up to 4 players, and the ESRB rated it a T, 14. If knowing Acclaim's involved doesn't get me excited, maybe this box art can sell it to me, and it's doing a good job with having the logo and lightning and showing Hulk Hogan and all of his bulging muscles and pythons. Behind him, implanted in the steel, is RVD, Bret Hart, he enjoys that, doesn't he? Terry Funk, Jimmy Snuka, Jimmy Hart, the Road Warriors, and Jerry the King Lawler with a little sticker residue. This box is covered in stickers. You can almost see this was once $7.99 at Electronics Boutique. The back sells that price tag being a bit plain with info and in-game screenshots, making this tagline, "The Mania is about to begin all over again," makes sense when looking at it. And looking at this sticker, it looks like this was a copy of Spider-Man from Blockbusters at one point. I only have the GameCube version because I don't see the point of looking at a different port if they're all gonna look mostly the same. I don't think there will be a major difference between the versions of this game anyway. If I'm wrong, but I'll let you in on a secret. I'm never wrong. The intro to this game is a little strange, showing a few stars in a film reel looking filter before transitioning to the present where they're rocking out and kicking all the ass in the present day game. I get what they're trying to show, these guys are from an older time, but most of them aren't from the grainy black and white days. Unless we're talking Ric Flair, but I don't think he's in this. We'll see who we do have as we head into an exhibition versus. The selection on hand looks very good by looking at the list of names, a majority of which I do recognize with few exceptions. There's still several that are locked behind a question mark, but you can't go wrong with who we already got.
Hogan! Bullshit, Hulk Hogan! Who was your fucking coach? Dynamite Kid! I tell him, go fuck yourself. He's okay, better than nothing. Super fly. I beat the fuck out of you. Fuck the teddy bears. You're no good son of a bitch.
Would you like a donut? A donut.
One of the greatest, one of the best.
And that guy who I have never heard of, and I don't think Sheiky Baby does either.
I'm not gonna talk anymore, I'm down now.
But I'm going with Kevin Von Erich since he's the last surviving member of his legendary family and deserves some recognition, and he'll go against the Funker himself so we can have a good old Texas brawl. If you haven't heard of the Von Erichs, I'd recommend watching the Dark Side of the Ring episode. It's a very tragic story, and I hope Tragedy doesn't get the hardcore icon anytime soon. Hope he's doing much better. The entrances were weird as well. I didn't realize at first, but if you press certain buttons, you'll do different animations that cater to the crowd as you go down the walkway. I'm getting SVR09 on the Wii vibes where you shake the remote around to do the same thing, and it only gets worse when you head into the ring. That's one thing I don't mind missing, overly long introductions. Actually, that's never gone away, they just save them for special occasions. Speaking of special, you like this loading screen? With this green spotlight? I'm struggling for shit to talk about, but these controls are simple to figure out. A is to strike and B is to block. X does grappling while Y does attacks, which you can do more of with the stick. Same goes for striking. L gets you in and out of the ring, R makes you run. Z turns an opponent while the C stick changes focus when applicable. The D-pad itself can do a number of things depending on which direction you press, but you'll primarily use the face buttons for everything. You saw that I didn't mention a reversal button. That's because there will be a blink and you'll miss a prompt that'll come up for certain moves. Just have to time it just right, which gets easier as you go along. Reversing has never been easier, but it's hard for me to give more praise to a game that's as slow as the action it's based on. Now, I'm not saying it performs slow, it already has a leg up over WrestleMania 21, but the action itself is such a slug that I got bored pretty quick. It didn't help that the barefoot boy didn't have much of an offense, yes, I'm blaming him, not me, and his favorite move apparently is the small package because he did it a lot. Guess the Von Erichs were forward thinking to use the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling. Acclaim still love to use more than one health bar representing the weakening state by color, and if you're wondering how you can hit your finisher, you just have to wait for the purple-ish border to blink, then you can unleash, in my case, the Iron Claw. That didn't do the trick, but a quick pin finally put Chainsaw Charlie away. That took a while, but it was slightly worth it when I got to see this. Jeez, someone was inspired by Street Fighter. Well, that was something, wasn't it? But it doesn't get any more interesting after that, as there's only 3 other match types for us to play. I'm not going to give it too much flack because it was the first wrestling game on the system. Then again, WrestleMania X8 came out the next month and had more going for it than this. So yeah, man, what the fuck? There is one other thing you can do, and that's being the referee. Some people like that shit, but I have to make it interesting, so I'm gonna officiate the match we all wanted to see, the Battle of the Sheiks. I just went with the model Rick Martel, because I think he was one at one point. Was he a ref? Could have sworn he was in the Federation. Came up like Brad Maddox? No, I must be thinking of someone else from the era. Regardless, you can take charge of matches however you like. Call it down the middle or get involved, then get handed a receipt. Do the animations or pick up weapons when that wants to work. All matches are no DQs in a way like in New Blood Rising, so anybody can go get a weapon at any time, but I find that to be finicky when I do it, and when you step on one... Physics! The remaining matches are your standard stuff, like tag team with terrible camera placement, and 3-way or 4-way dances, cause the names you know them by are trademarked. And if you're wondering what arena is, that's where you choose the settings of the matches. Why would you have it where the other matches are? You make it sound like it's gonna be a backstage thing, but no, you just had to put where we select to wrestle in the weirdest place possible. Now I don't have to feel bad about booking Cody's tickets for Las Vegas. But it was for Texas instead of Nevada. Hello.
I hate you.
This is getting real old, real fast. That's what taking these kinds of bumps do to the body. So let's wrap this up as soon as we can so we can retire early. Options are plentiful, everything is there.
Of course I want blood on. What do you think I am, a baby? I'm no baby face.
Tournament had me confused. It isn't bracket style like a regular tournament, instead going for who has the most wins overall. New, but nonetheless baffling. I mean, what am I supposed to take away from all this mess? Now we've come to creating myself once again, and as we've seen with the gameplay, there isn't very much going on, and it's no different here. You'll have to take a minimalist approach, which if you think about it would be of the era. Not every wrestler could afford to wear what we can today. I'll say I did the best with what I was given, and added a little retro flair.
Chicks dig the headband.
I took me and my headband to the career mode where it looks like we're going about the territories, or at least my region of the Southwest, to dominate the best in the business so I can become a legend in my own right. Easier said than done when you accidentally give yourself the Kevin Von Erich moveset, so you're stuck doing roll-ups the whole time and you give the crowd a reason to hate you.
I think I'll just stick to the style and wrestling I enjoy. Why can't the old timers like the diving flippy shit?
The first Legends of Wrestling got a very meh reception across all versions of the game. Not that it really mattered, because as you notice I said the first Legends of Wrestling, because somehow they went and made 2 more sequels that we're gonna have to cover down the line. Can't wait to see how it got worse.
I may not look like the kind of guy who respects history, let alone go back to study history, but as a wrestling fan, the history of the sport is usually glamorized and rewritten on a regular basis, that it's our job to set the record straight. Not that I really needed to for this game, because it's obvious to the untrained eye that it's not one to go back to.
This wasn't the worst idea to have at the time, considering how the landscape was changing astronomically at this point and the amount of star power you could get in the game. But I think that's all there really is to it. Big names and not much else. You get the basic wrestling experience with an okay control scheme, but I'd argue this kind of wrestling experience wasn't gonna sell it, especially when you had a slightly better example just on the horizon. That didn't do this any favors, not to mention its graphics aren't the best and can sometimes do its own thing if we're talking about the weapons. After a while, I just got bored and pretty much over it. It had a few interesting ideas, but not much of this game was executed the way most would have wanted. In the right hands, it could have been a sweet look back into the past, but Acclaim was never gonna deliver what WWE could, so we just got this generic crap.
It just isn't Hogan without hearing, I am a real American. WWE shouldn't have a monopoly over many things, but they can definitely show better respect than this game did. Best thing it did was line the guy's pockets, and that's it. Yeah, no women either, because none of them were around apparently. 1 star, 2nd time in a row. Mother of God, and all that is holy. I can appreciate when that era and style of wrestling gets its time in the sun. It's not as often as it used to be. Some styles barely get any recognition in the gaming sphere. We don't get any Japanese wrestling games here in the States, but there's an abundance of them, and the chances of any indie promotion getting a game are 1 in a trillion. But you'd be surprised at one type of wrestling that did get a game, and it might have taken place in your backyard.